In our previous lesson, we have discussed about assigning the resources to the activities in our project, and further we have learned the procedure to find out the budgeted total cost of the activity, WBS element or work package, and then of course the budgeted total cost at the phase level and at the project level as well. And as you know, you have seen already that the budgeted total cost is calculated and provided to us by the Primavera P6 algorithm automatically. And now in this present lesson, we are going to discuss another type of cost called expenses. Please note down the key point here that expenses are the types of costs to a project that are not represented by the resources. In other words, the expenses is the type of cost that do not happen because of labor, non-labor or material resources. So what do you think? What is the expenses then? Please note that, and it's important to know that expenses are the cost that can happen because of boarding and lodging, I mean the training, travel, documentation, legal assistance, etc. Let's understand this with an example. As you know, we have project manager and the design architect in our project. Let's say the design architect is working remotely from a different city, and that is 100 kilometers away from the project site. Assume that our project is located in Pretoria, but the design architect is working from the Johannesburg city. Now, the design architect has to travel to the Pretoria every Monday morning so that he can take part in the weekly meeting with the customer and with the project team at the project site. Now, all of the cost that is occurring due to this travel will be taken as the expenses. I mean, we record this cost in the activity details form in the expenses tab only. So the expenses are the costs that are also assigned to the activities, and you please don't worry since it's very simple to assign cost in the Primavera P6. What I mean by saying this is that we assign cost to the activities exactly the same way we did for our resources during our discussion previously. Okay, so you have the concept now that what are the expenses. And now let's learn the procedure in Primavera P6 where we can actually assign the cost to our activities in the project. Okay, so good. Let's get back to our project now. As I said earlier that we can assign the cost to our activities in the expenses tab in the activity details form below. But as you see here, we don't have the expenses tab displaying at present. It's very easy. Displaying the expenses tab is really easy and you know the procedure already, but let me show it once more. Right click here and click on Customize Activity Details. Then in the available tabs, you have the expenses tab here. Okay, select this and click on Add to the list. Now you see expenses tab is added after the resources tab in the display tabs portion. Now what I will do is I will simply click on apply and will click OK. Now you see that immediately after this the expenses tab has appeared in the activity detail form. I will click on expenses now. Now in order to add the expenses item, I will just click on any activity in the activity table view. Let's say concrete basement slab, and now in the activity detail form below I will click on add. Now you see the expenses item is appeared already in the expenses tab. The new expenses item fields are already appeared in the expenses tab, as you can observe here. Expense item is basically the name of the cost that will occur to the project. Now I will type the expense item as traveling to Pretoria, and expense category, if I double click here, it will open up the select expense category window where we have many categories like weekly meeting, equipment, hardware, consulting, software, facilities, etc. Now, if you come across a situation that you need to have a new category or you do not find the type of expense category that you are looking for and you want to add a new expense category here, it's very easy. Just click on admin from the top menu and click on admin categories. Now in the expense categories tab, you just click on add button here. Now you see you will have the new expense category field there. Now I will just type the test category here. Just close. Now if I double click on expense category now, you see now in the select expense category window, I have the test category there. So I'm not going to select the test category. Instead, I will select the weekly meeting and I will click on select icon on the right side. Now, since the weekly meeting, this is our correct category here, and this is what I want. Now I will move on to the next field called accrual type, and it is showing uniform over activity, and this is selected by default. That means the cost will happen uniformly over the course of this activity duration. We can have other options. I can select end of activity or start of the activity, but I will leave this as default. Now, budgeted units here in our case will represent the number of visits to Pretoria for weekly meeting. Okay, and price per unit will be the price of our single visit. Budgeted cost is what we are planning. Let's say, for example, if I know the cost, my single visit cost to Pretoria is $500. Since I'm planning for single visit, I will type 1 here. Now you see my budgeted cost is changed to $500. That means we are getting this cost by multiplying the budgeted units with the price per unit field. Now let's say, for example, if I'm planning the monthly cost, I'm traveling 4 times in a month, so this will be the cost for the 4 weeks. Now you see it has changed automatically to the $2,000, and this is what we have planned the cost for our full month. Since we have not visited yet and have not entered the actual cost yet, so that's why our remaining cost is equal to the budgeted cost. Now let's say during the first visit I have, for example, spent $400. Now you see the remaining field will change automatically to $1,600, and that's how the Oracle Primavera P6 algorithm is calculating the budgeted cost for our expense items. Another key point, if you have observed here, it will also update our budgeted total cost in the activity table view as well. Let's say, for example, if I'm planning, let's say, for example, if I change the budgeted cost to $500, so you see what happens. That means this is the cost for the single visit only, and it will update. You see at the end it was 300,000 something, and you see the 500, it was 00 appearing before. For example, if I type 0 here, now the cost has changed to 0. I mean 3,048,000. So now if I change the budgeted cost to 500, now you see immediately after that the budgeted total cost in the activity table view is also changed, and it is also added in the budgeted total cost of the work package as well. I mean, whatever budgeted cost will display here for the particular activity, in this case it is concrete basement slab, and in the expenses tab we have $500. This cost will, and this budgeted cost will also be updated in the activity table view in the budgeted total cost column, as well as the cost for the WBS element or the work package as well. and ultimately this cost is also going to be added in the overall project budgeted total cost also. So this is how we can keep adding as many expense items we want under the expenses tab for a certain activity as needed. For example, if I want another expense item, I can simply click add and can modify the details of that expense item as needed here, and I can click add once more, and this way you can keep adding the number of items depending upon your situation. So in a project we have multiple ways that we can use to estimate the cost. Normally we use the procedure we call the bottom-up estimating and the top-down estimating. Let's assume that you are planning to travel for 1 week holiday with your family to some place, and you want to estimate that how much it would cost you for the whole 1 week. For example, how much the air tickets would be, what would be the cost of the car rental, then how much the food and drinks are going to cost you, then what would be the accommodation charges. Now assume that the air tickets is going to cost you $2,000, the car rental charges are $1,000, food and drinks is going to cost you around $1,000, and assume that the accommodation is going to charge $3,000. Now if you sum up all these costs together, I mean 2,000 plus 1,000, 1,000 and 3,000, that will all make the $7,000. I mean all these individual costs together, that will make the total $7,000. So this is a typical example of bottom-up estimating. Now what we are doing here, we are actually adding up all the individual costs together, and this is giving us the total traveling cost for our trip. On the other hand, the top-down estimating is basically based on the historical information or expert judgment. For example, in the same case, you don't have any information about the air tickets, car rental, food and drinks or accommodation charges for that trip you are planning for. Now you call your friend and ask for help because he has good experience traveling to that area. Now the estimate he has given for your family is $12,000. So this $12,000 for 1 week, the amount he has given is based on the expert judgment or his experience traveling to the same area. So this is a typical example of top-down estimating. So you can make use of expenses tab as we have explained earlier for the top-down or the bottom-up estimating as needed. Okay, so let me quickly summarize what we have learned in this particular lesson. We said that the expenses are the types of costs to a project that do not happen because of the resources. I mean, the expenses is a cost that do not happen because of labor, non-labor or material resources, such as boarding and lodging, documentation, legal assistance, and traveling, etc. We normally make use of expenses tab in the activity detailed form to enter any type of expenses items as needed. We have also learned the difference between the bottom-up and top-down estimating techniques, and expenses tab can be used for the same purpose. One key point to remember here, whatever estimating technique you use in the expenses tab, it will add up this cost to the budgeted total cost in the budgeted total cost column in the activity table view. For example, we have install underground water lines activity. The currently budgeted total cost is showing $8,000. Now, if I add an cost item in the expenses tab, let's say I will say traveling, and the budgeted total cost I will say, for example, $600. Now you see immediately after that the budgeted total cost for the install underground water lines, it has changed to $8,600. So that's how you can enter the costs that do not happen because of resources in the expenses tab. Thank you for watching, and that's it about this lesson. I hope to see you in our next class. Thank you.